Welcome back to the Doug and Commish Show. We are talking about our semifinal matchups. And Trash, congratulations on getting to the semifinals yet again.
Thank you, Dougie.
And really what we got here is Killer Bees, a classic rivalry matchup. Lombardi versus Lombardi. The only two Lombardi teams to make it. Let's make note of that.
You love throwing that in.
I do. But anyway, you've got Trash and Bees. Classic rivalry. Here we go. Phillip Rivers against Cincinnati and Aaron Rodgers against Pittsburgh. Both matchups aren't really that great. Both teams give about 12 points. Two opposing quarterbacks. Pittsburgh obviously just doesn't. The defense just isn't there anymore.
Not without the long-haired Hawaiian.
No, I don't. So I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers because I feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to step it up and continue to get his team closer and closer to the playoffs. And here's the reason why. There isn't really a very big win that the Packers have on their schedule. I mean, let's be honest with each other.
No.
They're making it this far, beating the Lions, the Bears. You know, I'm just not impressed. And I think that this is going to be his time to actually step it up.
I think it's going to be close, and I think it's basically, for me, it's a draw. I think Phillip Rivers is really coming on, and his receivers are so mismatched.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all 6'5", and you can't stop that. So I think that both of them are probably in the mid-teens, upper teens, something like that.
All right, we got Frank Gore at Philadelphia, D'Angelo Williams at Minnesota, and my big concern is Steven Jackson on the bench for Tom. Houston gives up 17 points and 12 touchdowns this year to opposing running backs. D'Angelo Williams going up against Minnesota, who's given up 3 touchdowns and 9 points. Stats say you got to play Steven Jackson.
Stats definitely say Steven Jackson, but Tom is not talking to me right now because of some of the things I've been saying to him this week. And since I own him so far this year, being 2-0, some of the unsavory texts that I've been sending him, he's not talking to me right now.
I've actually read them. They're pretty bad, folks. I mean, like, we're talking Tiger Woods bad.
But I would offer some insight that is possible to why the Sasquatch eats bunnies raw. And, I mean, about Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson is going up against Houston, who is horrible, as we mentioned. But Houston's defense is coming on strong as of late.
Okay.
And Steven Jackson's team, the Rams, they blow. And their quarterback is a 6th-round QB out of Filipino Southern. I don't know where he freaking came from. And his quarterback coach was Ryan Leaf. So if that tells you anything about what team he's going to be throwing
Run
into,
and hide.
The Killer Bee could be a little concerned that Steven Jackson's team is just not going to allow him to run the ball this week. The QB, whatever his name is, threw 5 interceptions last week, fumbled twice. It's just a disaster down there. And they will allow Houston to stack the box and put probably 14 men in the box and not worry about the wide receivers.
All right. So why hasn't every team done this all year long against St. Louis? Because they're not good. And they don't have a good quarterback. So that would be my question here.
That's a legit concern. And even with D'Angelo Williams, maybe he thinks he's the Ray Rice that will elude the Purple People Eaters.
Well, I don't know. Either way, I think I still take the chance that Jackson's going to be able to get more than 9 points. That's just me. But again, I'm not in the playoffs, so what does it matter?
But you're Doug from Doug and Commish.
That's true, and I have an opinion, Doug, on it. All right, we go to the other side. Chris Johnson, Jamal Charles have tremendous matchups. I know that you like Chris Johnson, but Jamal Charles actually has the better of the two matchups here. Jamal Charles could be pickup of the year for you because you really didn't have a second running back once you got rid of Slayton.
No, I did not, and I was just leaning on the Johnson to basically take me to wherever I'm going. I mean, when he's scoring 40s and 50 points, you know, anything that Charles does is just an added bonus to pour salt in my opponent's wound.
Well, we like Charles, we like Johnson, and in this case, I'm probably going to give you the edge. I don't mind Frank Gore against Philadelphia, but I think Philadelphia really wants to wrap this thing up, and so I really kind of feel like they're probably going to be coming on strong. Wide receivers: Donald Driver, Miles Austin, and Pierre Garçon. And another great pickup for you. I mean, you've been able to work the waiver wire to basically what you needed this year. And Donald Driver, Miles Austin, and Pierre Garçon all of them have really good matchups. John Driver has the worst of those matchups, and it's not really that bad.
Well, we got Romo in prime time, which Miles Austin could have 0 points.
That's true. On the other side of things, Brandon Marshall coming off of his
Holy
21
crap.
reception.
That's unbelievable.
It really is unbelievable.
Did Indianapolis not know that he was out there?
I think they did.
21 receptions?
I think they kept saying, there's no way they'll go to him again. There's no way they'll go to him again.
I just don't understand. That's the whole cover 2 scheme. I just don't understand that.
Yeah. But Brandon Marshall against Oakland, you get a little bit nervous with that Nandi, but I'm not really. I think that thing's starting to pass, and I think we have to worry about more Darrelle Revis, as we've stated before.
Sure.
Chad Ochocinco against San Diego has a pretty good matchup. San Diego giving up about 18.5 and 10 touchdowns throughout the year. And Chris Chambers actually has a pretty good matchup, too, with 16, almost 17 points that the Browns are giving up and about 8 touchdowns. So, honestly, this could be a good matchup between your wide receivers.
Here's the thing with his receivers. I think his receivers have the matchups, unless the Namdi guy goes solo coverage on Marshall, which he's only done to, I believe, according to my source, he's only done that twice this year. Normally, he just covers a side of the field.
Yeah.
Well, any moron could say, well, I'm going to put my best receiver on the other side of the field.
Yeah.
But with the elite of the elites, Namdi has guarded them all day blanket coverage. I'm not sure if Marshall is going to qualify for that or if they're going to roll with that. So that's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
And then with Chris Chambers, they get Dwayne Bowe back this week. I actually think that helps Chris Chambers.
Yeah,
I think having an established running game with the Charles and then having a number 1 receiver take some of that rollage of coverage away from Chris Chambers, I think that actually helps him.
All right. Tight end Tony Gonzalez against the Jets. The Jets are giving up just 4 touchdowns throughout the year. Or 4 points. I think only 2 touchdowns, if I remember correctly. And Benjamin Watson against the Bills. Bills are giving up about 6.5. I don't trust Ben Watson, though. So I'll go with Tony Gonzalez on this one. But we had discussed the possibility that Darrelle Revis might float over to Tony Gonzalez here and there because they use him so frequently, as Chris Redmond isn't necessarily as comfortable going down the field just yet. So it could be a possibility. The defense, the Browns versus Kansas City. Kansas City giving up 10 points to opposing defenses, and you got the Texans against St. Louis giving up 14.2. I'll tell you, I don't remember a year when defenses have been scoring this much against other offensive. I really don't. I mean, we have like 5 or 6 teams that are giving up double digits to opposing.
It used to just be the Ravens.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted the Ravens, and if you didn't have the Ravens, then it didn't really matter.
You just kind of got 4 or 5 if you got lucky. But we got teams that are giving up 10, 12, 14 points to opposing defenses.
It's more of a tribute to how poor the offenses are in the NFL right now.
Yeah. In this, you also got a pretty good matchup with the Broncos against Oakland. What's your thinking as far as going in the Packers really against Pittsburgh, as you get a lot of sacks because Ben doesn't move?
You know, Dougie, I made all these moves for these defenses weeks before the playoffs started in design for this week against the mighty Sass. And that's why I picked these defenses up. And I don't know which one I'm going to play yet.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards the Texans. But I like the Broncos at home against Charlie Fry and the Raiders as well.
Yeah, good matchups. All right. Well, here we go.
You first.
The moment of truth. Okay, me first. Here's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to pick trash, and here's the reason why. I really just don't see Tom being able to beat you this year, and I feel like it's going to be Jamal Charles that's going to be your high scorer for the week. I really do. I know Chris Johnson is a great matchup. But I think that Jamal Charles and Pierre Garçon, I think that Manning is going to target him. Manning had 3 interceptions last week, 3. And I just don't see him doing that again. I think he wants to rest in week 16. I pick Jamal Charles and Pierre Garçon to lead the Mighty Trash to a final game against the Hips. Trash?
Tom, I'm going to kill you again. I beat you by 140-some points this year. I own you, and I'm going to take you out again. Trash by a lot.
All right, you heard it here. We'll be right back with our loser bracket. And next week we'll have pretty much our final preview show. And then we'll get our wrap-up after that. So we'll be right back.
From a tree.